Hi, everybody. This is Josh Kulp. We are learning Daf Pei Tet of Bava Kamma. And I wanted to explain a background of Rebbe Meir's statement that appears towards the beginning of the page here. That is about the ketubah, and we're talking a lot about the ketubah in these dapim. And I find that ketubah is a very important institution. People don't always understand what the word ketubah means, so I thought I would give a little bit of background, particularly dealing with Rebbe Meir. So Rebbe Meir says, "Asur lo li'adam sheyasheh et ishto afilu sha'achat belo ketubah." A person cannot stay married even for an hour without a ketubah. And the question is why. The Gemara explains why, and I want to explain it a little bit more in depth. There are two functions really of a ketubah. A ketubah is a payment that the husband makes from his estate to hers at the dissolution of the marriage, at death or divorce. Now, there's another meaning, yet another meaning to the ketubah that talks about the dowry, but that's not what we're talking about here. The dowry is the property that she brings into the marriage, and that's really not what Rebbe Meir is talking about, although it could be included in a larger kind of framework. So the question is, why can a couple not stay married without a ketubah? And that brings us into the larger function of the ketubah. The ketubah has two main functions. One is it's to provide her with means on which to live after the dissolution of the marriage. That's the way we sort of look at alimony today. The couple was used to a joint income, to sharing expenses. Perhaps one partner was making less money or had less assets in some way than the other partner. So the ketubah is there upon the dissolution of the marriage to provide sort of like insurance. This will be particularly true of death. So the woman needs something to live on, the same way today we might think of life insurance. But that's not the only function of the ketubah. Another function of the ketubah is to make it difficult, a little bit more difficult for a husband to divorce his wife. And that's what Rebbe Meir is alluding to. At the point of the marriage, two things happen. One is the wife brings money into the marriage, and the husband gets to use that money during his marriage. It's a financial bonus to him. I mean, he's going to have to pay for the children, he's going to pay for the upkeep of the house, but there is an income bonus at the point of the marriage. And also he promises to give her money upon dissolution. It's going to hurt him to get divorced. As it does today, divorce is often a financial liability to both partners, to the financial detriment of both partners, and it costs a lot of money to get divorced. And what Rabbi Meir is saying is that we want that hanging over the head of the husband so that it's not so easy for him to dissolve the marriage. And that, to a certain extent, and quite frankly, I think that this still works true today. It's part of the dividing line between marriage and, let's say, a more casual partnership, boyfriend-girl, we might call boyfriend-girlfriend. I don't really matter. The gender doesn't matter to me too much to me. It could be two boyfriends, two girlfriends, whatever you might have. But when we have a marriage and we have a combination of the assets, that serves as a break. It's harder to dissolve a marriage than it is to dissolve a partnership that doesn't have those legal consequences. So somebody that you're just dating, it's much easier to break off that relationship. There's usually no financial consequences to that. And that's what Rameir is saying. And in a more maybe cruder sense, this distinguishes the difference between marriage and something more akin to prostitution. In prostitution, one pays up front, and when the business arrangement is completed, that's it. One partner takes the money, the other partner goes, and it's all over. When it comes to marriage, we don't want marriage dissolved in that kind of way. Marriage is not a payment from one partner to the other. It's a commingling of assets, of property, of the estate. And it's not a payment. That's a big distinction. And it helps preserve the bonds of marriage, which means that you don't get divorced after one fight. You don't get divorced because for a week you're not getting along very well. If 80% of the relationship is going well, you probably aren't going to get divorced. I don't know what threshold, 90%. If it's only 20%, maybe you would get divorced. But divorce is a little bit more difficult than simply breaking off a less legal, less formal relationship. And that's what Rebbe Meir is saying. The husband, it's gendered in this case, needs that sword hanging over his head so that he doesn't capriciously divorce his wife, and so that he views this relationship as a long-term bond and less as a transactional kind of bond.